Alright. Hello everyone! The day has come. This is the demo feedback session. Yay! I hope you hear well. Not sure because I'm sorry for the delay because I had something to do. Alright. I'm waiting a couple of minutes for some guys, and also I'm making a Facebook post that I'm streaming. In the meantime, you can tell me about your day. Oh, I forgot that you see all my desktop now. So actually, you just whatever. You see the woman's chat. Oh. But nothing naughty here. I'm making a tweet as well. All right. Is anyone here who sent me demo in the past week? So is anyone here who's waiting for a demo on his track? Because to be quite honest, I got so many. I'm not able to include every single track I received. So I'm gonna give feedbacks in time order. So the people who sent me earlier got their feedbacks first. I think that's fair. So yeah, today I think I will have time about 10 or 15 tracks. I'm not sure. I'm trying. I try my best, guys. And all right. Oh yeah, I remember that one. Actually, the sign and square is gonna be the first, because I think you sent me first, even before I mentioned that I'm going to do a live stream. I guess. So the thing is, I just want to say a couple of words before I start giving the feedbacks, because so I'm gonna tell my honest opinion about your tracks, and I'm trying to be as constructive as possible and as objective as possible, but keep in mind that, like any other kind of art, there is no ultimate objectivity. Like music can have any impact on someone while someone else gets bored of it. It happens sometimes, and also a lot depends on the actual mood. But that's the musical part of it. But actually, the sounding is much more concrete, and I think after years of experience, I pretty much know what's working and what's not. So I'm trying to focus more of this technical side of the things more of the times, I guess. And keep that in mind, that I'm not the ultimate trance producer god whose opinion is the only acceptable fact in this planet, okay? I'm just telling you what I'm thinking about things, and with probably more experience that you currently have, but it doesn't mean so much. I mean, if I say anything bad, it doesn't mean you have no talent and you need to stop making music or anything. I think you are not professionals probably, and if you want to be a professional and want to make a living of music, or just want to be more professional, you need to work hard definitely and get feedbacks, and you need to accept the criticism. That's important. All right, guys. First of all, yeah. So the first track is gonna be, yeah, I have a help. Is Nawaz Merchant Sign and Square ID. He sent me in WoW and he's watching the live stream. So let's listen to this. I'm probably going to fast forward sometimes, but I'm trying to listen to the full tracks. So it was Merchants. I hope I pronounce your name properly. Probably not. So it's Sign and Square ID. All right. So I think the groove is quite nice. Its rhythm is really bouncy, and it's actually great. But I feel that some of the bass lines are clashing with each other, especially on the high frequencies, and it's kind of messy at some points in the intro section, I mean. And I think the kick is punching really well actually, which is great. It has the more sub, I think. So the kick is punching through the mix really nice, which is important. But I still don't feel that really beefy low frequencies in the bass line, to be honest. But this version is still much better than having a clashing kick with a bass line. I mean, if they would clash in the low end, it's still much better because it's still clean. I think I feel just it could be more beefy in the low, bass line wise. And the thing is with this groove, I feel that it should have more variations because after a couple of, not even minutes, but after like 4 or 8 bars, it gets boring. And if you would have small different variations in every 4 or 8 bars in the bass line, just slightly different, some different sounds or notes or some variation in the groove, some in the rhythm, it would be much more effective and less boring, I think. The pluck sound is quite generic to me. I think it's the same freaking sound what pretty much everyone would use in a track like that, and I think you don't want that. I think it would be much better with a more unique pluck sound. The melody is quite nice. The breakdown is really nice with the chord progressions. It's just this generic. For some reason, I heard this kind of sounds in so many tracks, and I really hate them, to be honest. By just a small thing, it works. Yeah, the other thing, I think the Super Soul leads could be much more effective with that sucking in reverb effect. You know that, and you just have some small delay on it, but it would be much more effective with that sucking in reverb effect, which is not special again because many like because it's already has been made so many times already. But I think it would work better in this case. And I think the Super Soul leads could be more wide and more fat, I think, which is hard to explain now, but I just don't feel it so punchy. I don't feel that if I would listen to this Super Soul in a club, it would shake my ass off or something. It's not that bad actually. It just could be better. For Super Soul, my favorite thing is Pyre. I think that's probably the best thing for Super Soul leads because it's just so powerful and clear. Yeah, the other thing, yeah, I think in the beginning of the breakdown, at this part, I think at this part, the sounds should open much more, much wider, like the pads and everything before the huge super so kick off. I think that would be much effective. And in the build up, that duck toy riser thing is so off to me. And I don't feel the drop quite effective because it's probably just some mixing issues. I mean, with a better mixing, it could be much powerful. And I just don't feel it punchy enough, which is again hard to explain. But and again, the rhythm of the super soul leads and its melody, it actually becomes really boring really quick because you don't use variations, and it's important because if you listen to the same melodies, the same rhythm for half a minute or a minute, it just gets fucking boring. It's quite nice, don't get me wrong, it's really nice, but you need to make variations, small changes in every 2 or 4 or 8 bars, which makes it more interesting. I think that's important, because that makes the listener to go back to your song and listen to it again, because it's more entertaining to your ears, not just listen to the same thing for minutes. Yeah, and there is a lead comes in later. Yeah, I think that lead or pluck sound is really weak and really quiet, and again, it's just with a better mixing or maybe with a different arrangement, it would be much more effective. Because now I don't feel its point. I don't feel it has any point in the music right now. It's just you put something there because it was pretty boring after a minute for the same melody, and you just put this melody on top, but it just doesn't have any point in the music, I think. So maybe with a different sound, with a different melody, it would be much more interesting. I think that's it. I'm sorry because I told so many bad things. I mean, it seems bad, but actually it's not a bad track. It's a great start for something, so definitely keep it up and then work on it or work on your tracks. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be great. It just, we need to evolve as much as possible. But it's a good one for a start, I guess. All right. The next one. Oh, Jesus Christ! I won't have any time, enough time for anything, honestly. Oh, and guys, you're sending me tracks. No, bro. Later for the next one, maybe. I got more than 30 demos, and I'm speaking too much. Right, the next one. Milad E. And I think he already got some releases on different labels. So his track is with Hoza together. Alright. So this is the next one. love that you're giving feedbacks to each other as well in the chat. It's great because feedbacks are really important. Yeah, I love the bass lines as well, but in my opinion, it has way too much low end. It's really subby, and your kick doesn't really have any low frequencies, or it's just too short, or maybe both, which is great because your bassline has way too much low end, so at least they are not clashing. But in my opinion, it should be more well balanced with the kick. The kick should have more low end, and it should be a bit longer, and I would cut the really low frequencies of your bassline definitely, because your kick is not really punching through the mix in the low end. It has a really nice top and a bit of the body, but in the low section it doesn't have anything. But again, it's at least they are not clashing with the bass line that much because of this. It has really nice plucky sounds in it. It has a really nice breakdown. For my taste, or actually in my opinion, the right sound in the breakdown comes in really early and really just sudden and harsh for my ears at this part. Let me show it. Maybe just I don't like this sample at all. It just you have such a nice breakdown with so many lush sounds, and it's a bit harsh to me. It's not a big deal. It's just small details, you know. And actually, it steals all the attention, all the focus of my ears in the breakdown. I can't really focus on the musical elements because of this harsh ride. Oh, it's better now, but just filter it up and it will be much better, I think. Again, the balances of the low end is not really good in the drop either. I think it has some mixing issues with the low frequencies, and the super sows are just too loud, and the whole mix is a bit over compressed, I think. So that's why it's even worse, because if your mix is not really proper and you are trying to over compress the whole mix, it's gonna be even worse. And in my opinion, the sidechain is also too much on the super soul leads. And because of that, its rhythm becomes that, you know, that's the classic super soul pumping rhythm, and it just gets boring. It's much better if you try to make some groove of the super soul leads as well. But you just can't hear any because it's pumping so hard because of the sidechain. The chords and the melodies, to be quite honest, are really nice, but for my taste it's a bit average. It has a really nice vibe. It's a good song, but I don't feel that it could be something really special. Don't get me wrong, I would probably play it on a radio show or something, because it has a nice vibe, but it's not that special, interesting, big track. But it's actually really good. And yeah, keep them coming. It was actually a good thing. Just again, I told so many bad things. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to be constructive. Okay, sorry. It's just my opinion. Let me read your feedbacks. All right. It was actually a good track. I liked it. I just feel it could be more special with some changes. I don't really have suggestions for the musical changes. Just the overall feel of it, the chord progression and the melody. It just, for me, it's a bit average, but it doesn't mean it's bad, because it's pretty subjective. That's why I'm trying to talk about the technical side of the things. All right, the next one is David Murray with the track Flash Thompson. It's on SoundCloud. I hope I don't show the SoundCloud links, because someone asked me to not show it. Alright, Flash Thompson, David Murray. right. Uh, so first of all, I think the intro was really boring. Even though if it's a techno track, even though if it's just a DJ intro, for the first minute it should be like much more than just a kick drum for 1 minute or half a minute or something. It just put some effects on it or something, because it's if you send this track for a DJ for as a promo for playing in a radio show or on live gigs or anything, and he starts to listen to it, and he just listened to a kick for a minute, it's definitely a no, probably. Alright, he's probably gonna fast forward for it, but just, make it much more interesting, even just the first minute. The bass lines are really nice. I felt that it's probably a loop. I'm not sure, but I felt like it's a really well produced loop sample from somewhere, because to be quite honest, I felt that the rest of the track doesn't feel so well produced as the bass lines, because the bass lines for me are actually sounds really great. I think those are really interesting bass lines. And again, the mixing is really horrible, because your bass lines, even the first section, which has a different bass line, it's already clashing with the kick really bad. But in the second one, it's just horrible. It just is too much. I don't even feel or hear anything of your kick drum, just its top, its transients, but nothing really else, because your bass line is killing it. And your kick does have its bottom, because I can hear it at this part. But this bass line is actually fucking rough. I love it, honestly. It's amazing. Even though if it's a loop or you made it, it's really well produced. It's just clashing really bad with your kick drum. And the lead sound, it's just so annoying to me. It's way too high, probably, and the sound itself is just there's some certain frequencies in it which are really annoying to my ears. Just too much. I would try to lower it with an octave at least, and try a different sound, because it's just bad. It's bad to listen to it, honestly. And again, its melodies, it gets boring after a while, because there are no variations. The breakdown is kind of cool, especially with those break beats. I really liked it, and that the annoying lead sound actually plays legato. It would be really cool if it wouldn't be so annoying. And the last thing, I think, we can say, I think this part here is the actual drop section or kickoff or whatever you name it. But I feel it should be different than the intro, because the intro actually just came back again, and it's not really surprising. It doesn't have any really big impact on me, and I think it should be a bit different, a bit more punchy, something slightly different than in the intro. Actually, I love this bass line. It's a quite good track. Yeah, that was my opinion. Let's go to the next one. It's from Dominic. I'm not sure if I can pronounce your family name. It's from Dominic. I think he's from Poland, so we are neighbors. And yeah, his artist name is Mark Lin, and this is Majestic. Are you here, Dominic? Marklin? Okay, first of all, this is a 3 years old upload. I'm not sure why are you sending such old tracks for feedbacks. Sonically, it's very confusing. Too much things are fighting for my ears' attention. It's like I feel like every single instrument, every percussion, even the hi-hats want to punch in my face at the same time, and they are just not able to decide what should happen or something. The kick doesn't have much low end, and this punch in the face effect usually appears when something is very over compressed and has no dynamics at all. And some of the sounds just annoying me, and like the pluck sound is very old-fashioned, and just some of the sounds are, for me, are annoying. For example, this small melody, it's like a sound from 10 years ago from every second trancecore and dancecore tune. I know it's some kind of tech trance or it's more dark or something else. It's not that uplifting vibe, but actually I like its dark vibe. Don't get me wrong. I kind of like the start of the breakdown. It was really nice. I'm 100% sure that your lead is very, very over compressed, and it just makes the whole thing worse. And probably that's why the sounds are annoying, because it's just not pleasant to my ears. If you try to boost up a sound with such a huge compression, it just not will be pleasant anymore. But I think you actually had really bad sound choices at some points, and it's the same thing could have more variations, because musically it's quite boring after a short time, and overall it has some really nice dark tech trancey ideas, but the bad sound selection and the poor mixing makes the whole track, I think, bad. The whole track just sounds too much, and I'm sorry to say that I didn't really like it at all. But you are always have the opportunity to change, so it's just up to you. And maybe just me, this was only my opinion, so definitely keep working, keep sending the tracks, and I think it's gonna be much better. And actually it's 3 years old, so maybe we evolved much more since that. But I'm not sure why did you send this track to me from the 3 years ago. But thank you though, and hope I help something. The next one is Hank. Who is Hank? Is Hank here in the chat? Alright, next one is Sang Diversity, Water of Love, remixed by Conrail. So it's a remix. Alright, Hank Rosima, please let me know if you are here in the chat. Let's listen to your track.
feel you. I feel strong. I feel you underwater.
Wow, I'm speechless. Honestly, it was it was gold. Um, my honest opinion, this track sounds like a very cheesy track from 2000. Just sounds much worse. It's very old-fashioned. Sounds. Um, it's very old-fashioned sounds, and its mixing is very bad. The piano sound is just horrible without any velocity. But to be honest, the drop or the chorus or whatever. It's kind of catchy and it has a great classic hands in the air vibe. And I really like it honestly, but I just can't take it seriously because of the weak production. Because it sounds very bad, especially the drums. The drum sounds like some old FL Studio basic samples. Um, so, but it has some kind of vibe, which is, it was really uplifting and um, can't really tell anything else about it. Actually, nice trick with the video editing because without the Beach Girls, I wouldn't really watch until 2 minutes where something actually starts to happen in the music. So, in my opinion, it needs much more work if you would like to create some really cheesy dance track from 15 years ago. You need to spend much more time on it. But its vibe is amazing, seriously. All right, the next one. The next one is Anthony Samaha, Anam Elephant. it's something different. First of all, I really like the groove. I love the kick drum. I love the bass, and they are really clean. But actually, it's a bit tricky because of this slow tempo. Each instruments, your kick drum and your bass line, have much more space in the mix. So that's how it's much easier to actually mix down a slower track properly, because they have much more time in your mix in the spectrum. And because of that, I felt like your bass line should have much more sub frequencies, because it's not gonna clash with the kick drum because it's really slow. So I felt like it should have so much sub frequencies that I should feel it in my lungs to shake my whole body. And this bass line doesn't really have that low end, and it would easily have that much actually. And again, the variations, it's I know it's a slowly building track and it's kind of repetitive, but it's all about the small variations. And I felt like some parts are just way too long, and the track is long actually. It's almost 8 minutes, and I felt like if you would shorten some parts, it would be much better, because it's just so long and so repetitive. I loved it, don't get me wrong. I love this groove. I love the sounds you use. So interesting sounds and effects and atmospheric sounds, and the vocal is actually fitting really well to the whole song. But I felt like it's just way too long and builds up so slowly. And I think with a different arrangement, it could be much more effective. But mixing wise, this is really clean actually, in my opinion, because I pretty much hear every sound really clear, which is really nice, and the groove is really clean as well. But again, it's easier because it's really slow. I really like the trippy breakdown, but again, I felt it's like way too long. And the only thing I would try, the bass line should have variations, that's the thing, but I will try to open the bass line, not just its filter, but I will try to some longer notes in this drop section, like some more legato notes in the bass line. It should open during the breakdown and become more legato with more sustain on the envelope, and I think it would be much more interesting than keep it that like stabby, plucky bass line. That's one idea what I heard during I listened to the whole thing. But it's again, it's really interesting and a really nice mix. So it's a nice job. I liked it. Good. I'm not sure if so it's a bootleg. I tried to search the original, but I didn't really find anything. So I'm not sure which part is yours. I think the groove is yours probably. Maybe just this Indian vocals on top. I'm not sure, but it's really interesting. Right. The next one is from Jimmy Minogue, the track called Pragmatic. So the kick drum and your bass line has really bad mixing issues, wrong low balances. Your bass line is way too subby. It has just too much bottom, and it doesn't really have those middle-ish frequencies. It's not really interesting. I would try to layer it, but it's definitely way too subby. It just it's not really good. It's not pleasant to my ears. It would probably sound very bad on my monitors, but if I would play it on a club or something, probably I would see empty dance floors, because you know it doesn't really matter if your low frequencies are not really well balanced until people listen to it only on $2 AirPods from through Spotify or something. But if you try to play a track in dance music, especially in a club or on a festival with huge speakers, you just immediately hear that it's very, very bad. But again, it's the hardest part of dance music. Almost all the demos I received actually has some kind of issues with the low end, because it actually takes a lot of experience, good ears, good monitors, good room acoustics, good techniques, good reference tracks, to make the low end proper, actually, in my opinion. And I think that's the biggest issue for many producers. Sometimes even the biggest ones. Like, I know that some of the big guys are struggling sometimes with tweaking the low end. But it's worth it, because it's the basic of your track. In dance music, that's probably the most important thing. To have your kick drum and your bass line properly well balanced, and if you have that, you still can go wrong, but it's much harder if your basic is just perfect. And in your track, unfortunately, the bass line is just too much. I think the kick drum is not the best choice of sample. Yeah, but I know it's the biggest problem. Anyways, the pluck sounded really nice. The melody is nice too, and oh, thanks for the following, I guess. So the melody and the breakdown was really nice, but the melody of this sound. It's like a bars long melody, and I hear it for almost a minute long or something. So it gets so boring without any variations, without any automation, without anything. So you just can't keep a melody for 1 minute, because it gets boring. That's another big issue from most of the demos, that you don't really try to add some different variations in it. Some small, it gives actually some small spice. It makes the listener to listen to your song again, because it's slightly different. And actually a good track, a good song is good because of the perfect balance, because between the predictable and the unpredictable. And if you play the same fucking melody for 1 minute, it's just so predictable. You have to make variations, because it gets boring. But the melodies are actually nice, and the sound is nice as well. The super solos are nice too, and I like the rhythm of the super solos here in the intro and actually in the drop too. It's just not really powerful, but again, it's some mixing issues which I'm not able to figure it out because I would need to see the channels separated to be able to say that, yeah, that's too weak, around 400 hertz or something. It just, again, it's not really powerful, and but actually it's nice. It's a nice conception. I like its rhythm. I like its melody, and the break is quite nice. But again, the same fucking melody came back after I listened to the same melody for 1 minute in the intro, and you actually put it the same thing here. And at this point, I already hate this melody, and you put it into the chorus as well here in the drop section. My suggestion would be something like if you made this melody and it's really nice, you should try to tease some bits of it in the intro and in the break, and put the whole thing into the cathartic part of the track. And you should just try to tease some notes of it or something, and don't go with the whole section constantly in every part of your track. I think that's it. So it was honestly one of the worst track mixing wise. No, probably that 2000 cheesy dance track was even worse, but as I told you, I couldn't take it really seriously. This one should be much better, with a much better mixing, and with that those small tiny variations, at least in the plug sounds, to not be so boring after 1 minute. But that's it. But keep it up, it will be much better, trust me. And actually, musically, it was really interesting. That's especially in the drop section. Yeah, those chords are really nice. So this track definitely has much more potential. Just need to have a much better mixing. Alright. Oh, Jesus Christ, I speak way too much. Why? I wanted to give feedbacks for 15 tracks, but I have only half an hour now. I got some feedbacks from Anjuna Beats. Sorry guys. Fuck. Alright. The thing is, so the next one. This was the 7th track. I'm not gonna be able to do more than 10 tracks, I'm afraid. Maybe. Okay, the next one is Alexander Venice, Blue Harvest, Mojave. Wow, it's a good title. Let's do it. Wow, that was really amazing. I loved it, honestly. It's a lovely progressive tune. But again, those fucking kick and bass line. Ah man, it's not that bad. I just feel like with a better, more proper mixing, it would be a much bigger track. It's not that bad. Actually, I can imagine that some of if you would send this demo for some labels, and they would be really interested because the music itself is really good, and maybe they will suggest you to mix it down more properly or something. Um, but actually, the track itself is really interesting and really nice. I love its vibe. I love the chord progression, the melodies. I love pretty much everything, but the final mixdown is just again, it's a bit wrong. It's not that wrong. I just feel it has much more potential as a big track than it currently has. Um, there are really nice sounds, really interesting small little details in this track, and it's really lovely. And again, those freaking variations, it's it's not so bad again because you used many different layers which are not really trying um, to fight with each other, but helps each other instead in a good way. So even though if this track isn't really have so many variations as well, but it doesn't seem so repetitive because every time something else comes in, something small, little detail, and it makes it more interesting. So actually, it's really good. Um, just just it could be a little bit more interesting. It's not a big deal. I would love to play it or listen to this track even without any changes in the arrangement or in the musical side of it. It's a really good track. I just feel if it would be properly mixed, it will be a really big track, honestly. Well done, well done. I loved it. All right, the next one is Andrew Harvey, ID. It was a good one, actually. It has interesting sounds in the intro. Um, really like the groove, and the good thing is the bass line is not clashing with the kick drum, but it's because these 40 bass lines are really more like working on the middle-ish frequencies or low mid frequencies, so that's why they are not clashing with the kick in the low end. But that's why I still feel that I still miss some of those frequencies which could connect your kick drum with your bass line, and that's the hardest part to figure it out and to try to make work together with all, because at this moment I feel it's really clear actually, and the kick is punching really nicely, but I still miss some frequencies, and I would suggest to try, not just to you but anyone else, just try a pure sine wave sidechain with your kick drum around, it depends on your key obviously, but around 100 hertz, so it depends in which key are you, but make sure it's in the octave where it's around 100 hertz. Nothing else, just a side chain, just a pure sine wave side chained with your kick drum, and cut the low end of your bass line. It's just keep the sine wave pumping with your kick drum, and then have these kind of middle-ish bass lines. And I think it would work much better. It would have much more connection with your kick drum, and it would be still pretty clear, I think. The kick is kind of long. It's not a bad thing because it's still clear. It's not clashing. It's really good, and the sounds are really interesting, really unique. So I like the groove actually. And again, these kind of mixes still sounds much better in a club or on loudspeakers, on loud volume, than those, compared to those which are really clashing each other in the low end. So it's, even though if you wouldn't do anything with this mix down, it would sound quite good on a big system, I think. The vocal is in the intro is a bit off to me. I mean, I don't feel that it has any connection with the track itself. I feel like you just try to put the vocals on your intro section and that's it. But it just doesn't really working well together, in my opinion.
All the days that we spent in the way we
It works much better in the breakdown section.
all that to me you said.
But I don't really feel that the vocal melody is something really interesting. It doesn't really have such a catchy melody, some catchy rhythm or anything. I couldn't imagine myself singing it because it doesn't really have some kind of hook in it. So it's, for me, it's this vocal is not really working on me, but maybe just me. And in the drop section, this lead sound is really interesting. I think it has too much high frequencies, but a really unique sound. But too much sidechain on it, and it starts to lose its character. and because of the side chain, it just becomes a huge pulsating mess. I think it's just way too much. Yeah, actually, it's a nice track. It's again not quite that really unique, big, memorable thing that I would really like to hear from someone. It's just more like, even though if it's more like sad, it has some sad vibe, but it's it's hard to explain. I'm not sure if I would listen to it many times, but maybe it's just me. I think we, like music producers, when we listen to a track, we think many times way more different than the average listener. So maybe it's just me. Anyway, it's a quite nice track. The next one, oh my god, I have 5 minutes, guys. Sorry. I'm so sorry. And I have many demos yet. Jesus Christ. So maybe the next one is gonna be the last one. Ending Tuzani, Manhattan. probably lost half of the viewers because of these tracks. So thanks, man. No. I'm just kidding. Again, the kick has a nice bottom. It's punching through the mix nicely. The bass doesn't really have anything there, so it's easy. But if you want a really banging, huge groove with a nice bass line and kick together, the bass line should have something on the low end too, but it's just not too much, that's the hardest part. Just find the right balance. Try that sine wave technique I tried to mention before. Just use some sine wave around 100 hertz, obviously in the right key, with a sidechain, and cut the low end of the bass line. And I think it's gonna be much bigger. I know I already sound like a big idiot because I always say, oh yeah, it's a good track, but the bass line and the kick is... No! It's the most important thing, guys! Your kick and your bass line must be fucking perfect in electronic dance music. That's the basic of your track. So that's why it's so important. And that's why it's the hardest part to make it right, because of those are the lowest frequencies. They have the biggest impact on your whole mixdown. So it must be really well balanced. I know, it's really hard. I actually struggled with it for years. You know what? I remember when I started touring a couple of years ago, I started to play my own tracks, and I noticed that they sounded like shit. Seriously, my mixes were really, really bad, and actually didn't really want to play them much on my own gigs. There was a time when I didn't even play many of my own tracks on my own gigs, and that was the breakthrough time for me when I seriously started to think, why is that? And I figured out it's so easy. I mean, it's not easy, but it's so obvious that it's because my kicks and bass line just were not right in most of my tracks. And when they were right, it was just because of some kind of luck. I was just lucky sometimes to make it right. You just can't make a really good dance music without a good kick and a bass line. That's for sure. But if you have a really great music in your track, if your songwriting skills and your sound design skills are really great, you can compensate the weak mixes with better musical ideas. So sometimes if you make a really, really great track musically, and you send out to the labels, you might have such feedbacks like, oh yeah, it's a fucking amazing track and we would love to sign it, but it just doesn't sound really well. It's not a big deal because they will send it to a mixing or mastering engineer, or they can handle it. Actually, it's much worse if you have a really good sounding track without any unique IDs in it. That's much worse, that's for sure. But yeah, the conclusion about this demo feedback session, that's a big problem for many of you guys, and I absolutely can understand it, because as I mentioned, you need to have really good monitors, room acoustics, ears, and years of experiences and some kind of techniques which helps you to make them work well together. And if you have those, all those, you probably are able to make a good track sonically. I know it takes a lot of you know what, try to analyze as many reference tracks as possible. Just cut the high frequencies or even the middles. Just put a filter or a EQ on it with a 96 dB cut on the highs. Cut everything above 200 or 300 hertz and just focus what's happening on the low end. What's happening with the kick drum and with the bass lines, and try to figure out and try to analyze this spectrum as well. What's happening there? That's how actually you can learn a lot from other really great sounding tracks. And I would suggest some Anjuna Beats releases, especially Andrew Bayer or Above and Beyond, because their mixes are just high above everyone else, honestly. So that's important. If you have a good kick and a good bass line, you can't go really wrong, because it's not a big deal to fix a hi-hat. It's not a big deal. Or mix. All right, super saws are a bitch sometimes, but it's still much easier to handle them than a proper kick and bassline issue. Yeah, I think that was the main common problem with most of the demos. The other one is the variations. Sometimes you try to write. You have a nice melody which plays through 2 bars or something, and you just put into your project and you keep playing that for a minute or something, and it becomes boring so fast. And you wouldn't even imagine that, and your ears get used to it. But if someone else would listen to it with fresh ears, they would be like, "Oh, it's so fucking boring." And yeah, sometimes it happened to me as well. Sometimes I wrote some melodies and I didn't even realize it's just like 4 notes for a minute. And my wife came back from work, and I was really keen to show this track I worked on a whole day to her. And she listened to it. She was like, "Are you serious? It's so fucking annoying to listen to the same notes for a minute." And then I realized, yeah, she's fucking right. And that's why you need variations. Or you need, if you have something on a chorus section and you want to tease it in your intro section or in the breakdown section, you have to tease just a couple of notes, a few beats of the whole thing, and it will be much more effective if the whole comes in later. I think I gotta go, guys, and I think it was 10 tracks only. Is it possible? I need to count it. Yeah, it was 10 tracks, and I'm streaming for 2 hours. Oh. All right. I got already more than 30 tracks, and I didn't even read anything from the chat, and it kills me because I wanted to read your reactions. I'm gonna read. I'm so glad you are so active. Actually, you are trying to help each other. It's important. Actually, when I started to make music, there was a Hungarian forum. Actually, it still exists. and there was a couple other guys like me who try to make shitty music, and we upload it to each other, and we try to give each other constructive feedbacks. And actually I think I spent like more than a year on this forum, but honestly I evolved the most during this time, which is obviously feedbacks are probably the most important things, even though if you get from, like, you can ask your mother, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your anyone, just ask some honest opinions. That's important, and not necessarily from a professional. It doesn't have to be anyone, because it's in the end it's gonna be at the listeners. It's gonna be in Spotify, and not necessarily music producers gonna listen to it. Alright guys, I gotta go. But it was great. I'm just so sad. I wanted to give feedbacks for 15 people, but I just couldn't. I'm sure I'm gonna continue it next week somewhere. I'm gonna post it on Facebook or Twitter, and yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna upload the whole video to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/SunnyLexMusic, I guess. Yeah. Alright, have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for sending me so many demos. It was amazing. It's actually a good experience to me as well. And I'm so glad that so many of you are here. It's amazing. It's a great theme. Wow! Thank you, bro. Alright, have a great weekend, everyone. Don't drink too much. Bill Cosby. Oh, thanks for the following. Are you Polish? Or are you Hungarian? Yeah. Lengyel-magyar, két jó barát, együtt harcol és issza borát. Yeah, I know that. That's true. I have many Polish friends, actually. Our name is Polish. She's really great. Alright, guys, gotta go. Thank you so much. It was amazing. Tune in next time. Swedish. Alright, guys. See ya.